There you go. Good morning. The Housing, Community, and Economic Development Committee will now come to order. The committee will commence as a minority committee, as we have one member present, myself, Chairman Cardenas, and we will go through the items on the agenda in the order that they appear. Can you please read item 1 into the record?
Sure. Good morning. Michael Keck, CLA's office. Item number 1, LHD report and resolution and CAO report relative to authority to issue up to $6,729,000 in taxes-exempt multifamily mortgage revenue bonds for the Oak Ridge Family Homes Project located at 15455 Glen Oaks Boulevard, Los Angeles, and approval of related loan documents.
Okay. We anticipate Councilmember Alarcon will be here shortly, and so we'll hold this item for when Councilmember Alarcon comes. This is an item reflective of his district. He's requested that I wait till he arrives, so we'll hold that item. We'll go to item number 2, please.
Sure. Item number 2, CDD report and resolution relative to the issuance of tax-exempt revenue bonds by the California State Communities Development Authority in an amount up to $5 million for the benefit of the Delphi Schools, Inc., an Oregon 501c3 nonprofit corp.
Okay. See no cards. Public comment is open on that item. We have no one here for public comment. Public comment is closed. With that, it will be a recommendation of the chair that we adopt the TEFRA hearing minutes. Okay. Please read item number 3.
Pardon, Council Member, City Clerk's Office. On item number 2, I've been advised that the redistricting has put this project in Council District number 7.
Oh, and on number 2?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see.
And Councilmember, it's a CDD report, and there's a request for an amendment from the department to also adopt the TEFRA minutes.
Oh, okay. All right. So, as amended? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, as amended. Okay, that item will go as a recommendation of the chair to adopt the TEFRA hearing minutes as amended, as mentioned. Item number 3, please.
Item number 3, LHD report and resolution and CAO report relative to authority to issue up to $11 million in tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds for the Taylor Yards apartment project located at 1311 North San Fernando Road, Los Angeles, California.
Okay. Public comment on that item. I don't see any public comment cards. Public comment on that item is open. See no public comment cards. Public comment is closed on item number 3. With that, it will be a recommendation of the chair that we adopt the CAO report on this item. Okay. Also, on item number 2, I'd like to go back to item number 2, open up public comment. I forgot to mention that. Okay. Back on item number 2. Is there anybody here for public comment on item number 2? Item number 2, public comment is open. Okay. Seeing and hearing no one come forward, no cards before me on item number 2. Public comment on item number 2 is now closed. Okay. Again, that is that moves forward as a recommendation of the chair as amended. Okay. We now go to item number 4.
Item number 4, LHD and CEO report relative to authorization to execute a Second Amendment, contract number 118528 for Urban Futures Incorporated, to extend the term by 15 months from July 1st, 2012 through September 30th, 2013, for a total term of 36 months for a contract amount not to exceed $1,167,742 for UFI to conduct occupancy monitoring of affordable housing.
Okay. Is there anybody here for public comment on item number 4? Public comment is open on item number 4. I don't see anybody coming forward. There are no public comment cards filled out for item number 4. Public comment on item number 4 is now closed. That'll go forward as a recommendation of the chair to approve the CAO's report. Okay. Now item number 5.
Item number 5, LHD to report relative to changing the Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Katrina temporary relief program to eliminate the sunset clause and establish a permanent emergency housing assistance program for victims of fire and other disasters and for residents displaced by foreclosures.
Okay.
This is pursuant to the adoption of the mayor's 2012 budget on May 18th, 2011.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the report. Is there anybody here for public comment on item number 5? Public comment on item number 5 is now open. See no public comment cards and no one coming forward. Item number 5, public comment is closed. So So with that, it'll be a recommendation of the chair to receive and file the adopted budget recommendations. Okay. We'll go to item number 6.
Item number 6, Housing Authority of City of Los Angeles to report relative to potential existing gang prevention programs at Mar Vista Gardens. This is also pursuant to adoption of the mayor's 2012 budget on May 18, 2011.
Okay. Is Hakla here? Representative Hakla here? Item number 6. Okay. Can you give us a status on the RFP went out, correct?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
you had respondents?
We had only 2 respondents. My name is Eric Brown with the Housing Authority.
Who responded?
We had 2 boys clubs, Venice and Santa Monica Boys Clubs, to respond.
Okay. And they responded with an effort to do mostly intervention or prevention?
A little
Boys
bit of
clubs don't tend to do intervention so much, so.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. They're going to kind of come in and fill the void for rec and parks, and some of the things that they're doing there is what they're required to do. But it
there-
is, I'm sorry.
Are they partnering with another not-for-profit in the community to handle any intervention requirements?
Not at this time.
Okay. What I'd like you to do is if you could work with Guillermo Cespedes in the mayor's office. He's in charge of the GRID program, and I think it would be good for you to interact with them, and they are part of the administration of the city of Los Angeles, so I would think that it's not inappropriate that you share information and that they give you some advice when it comes to handling and choosing how you would award this RFP, because boys clubs in general, Boys and Girls Clubs, excuse me, Boys and Girl Clubs in general and organizations like that tend to be more prevention-oriented, where intervention it has to do with kids who are already gang-involved, et cetera. And at the demographic that you're talking about, the age group, I'm sure there definitely going to be some need to provide some kind of service or attention to some of those youth. And I'm not sure, just simply put, that Boys and Girls Club is actually prepared to do that. What we have now in the city of Los Angeles are some not-for-profit organizations that are, in fact, very well suited to handle intervention work in various communities. And I think in the Mar Vista community, there are at least 1 or 2 organizations that do have experience, a good reputation, the ability to provide that kind of service. So hopefully there'll be some way that that synergy can be recognized and perhaps involved in the expectation when the RFP does get awarded. Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
That's it.
Okay. All right. We'll open up public comment on item number 6. Is there anybody here for public comment on item number 6? Okay. Since there's nobody here on public comment on item number 6, public comment is closed. We've now been joined by Councilmember Alarcon. And on item number 6, what we'll do is it's a recommendation to receive and file this item, and also that HACLA follow the recommendation of the committee to work with the mayor's office, specifically the GRID partners in that office, such as the head of that is Guillermo Cespedes. Okay?
Very good.
And his team. Thank you. Okay. We go back to item number 1. Can you read it into the record, please?
Item number 1, LHD report and resolution and CAO report relative to authority to issue up to $6,729,000 in tax-exempt multifamily mortgage revenue bonds for Oak Ridge Family Homes project located at 15455 Glen Oaks, Los Angeles, and approval of related loan documents.
Okay. Councilmember Alcon, you had some.
Actually, I just had some questions about the outreach efforts.
Okay. LA Housing Department?
The community meeting we had with the residents of Oak Ridge who were very supportive of this program under certain assumptions, and one of those assumptions was that the former residents would be the people that would be the primary targets for reestablishing the residents here, and I was just wondering how that was coming.
Manuel Bernal from the Housing Department. You know, the outreach has started. One meeting has been held, two more are going to be held. The first meeting was outside of the project. The next one is going to be inside. And I think the efforts are going to have to balance the fair housing laws that we need to abide by with our desire to make sure that as many tenants or former residents benefit from these houses. So that's a balancing act that's taking place now.
I'm sorry, what are you inferring there?
Is the housing department aware of any first right of refusal for the previous tenants in the project going forward?
I'm not aware of that, but I'm relatively new, but maybe other staff is, and the developers here as well.
The developers here?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I think you guys are the ones who should be answering that question.
Right. Good morning, Councilman Alarcon. It's been a long journey. I'm Ryan Mendoza, Housing Director at Los Angeles Housing Partnership. This is Andre Perry, our President and CEO. We've been working hand in hand with Jose Rodriguez, with your office in Sylmar. And you know, I'm happy to state that a few months ago, we were working with a fair housing attorney, and we did secure an opinion that stated that we are that we are allowed to give priority and preference to those who were displaced by the 2008 Sarah fire.
Okay.
And so we've gone ahead and incorporated that in all of our marketing materials.
Okay.
Furthermore, we have been working with Jose to ensure that our flyers are being distributed to the victim list that he's maintained. We're also outreaching with the park owner themselves who've maintained their own list. LA Housing Partnership is committed to ensuring that those who are actually displaced by the fire, number one, have an opportunity to apply early, you know, way in advance of when we start construction. We're set to close on our construction financing within the next 3 weeks.
How many residents have been contacted? Former residents?
Right. My understanding is that the park ownership has maintained a list of approximately 70 former households who are living at the park. As to the list that's maintained by the council office itself,
No, but how many have been contacted?
Pardon?
How many have been contacted?
Of the 70, all of them have been contacted. Of the 70 that, approximately 70 that's maintained at the park ownership, I have forwarded the flyer to Jose Rodriguez, and so
You said 70?
70.
Okay, there were 400 homes destroyed, and about half of them decided to stay. So there should be 250.
That may be the number that has been contacted. Again, the park ownership has a current list of people who've expressed a desire to come back to the park of approximately 70. Now, Jose Rodriguez has been doing his own email blast of the flyer. I asked him for a copy of that list. He didn't want to share it, understandably. And so my understanding is that Jose has been disseminating the application workshop information to the council office list, which you know, I'm assuming approximates. 200.
So there are 70 former residents who have expressed an interest and will be given priority.
That's correct.
At a minimum.
At
a minimum. Okay.
Right.
Okay. I just wanted to stress that these people were displaced under the worst of circumstances, and I think it's just our and the current residents were very open-minded about allowing this special idea to move forward. First time in the state this has ever happened, and so they could have put the kibosh on this thing a long time ago. And I just want to make sure that we keep the promise to give their former neighbors the first priority.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just make one more point? It is a very special, different project than what we've seen in the past. So special, in fact, that we are going to have, hopefully, again, start construction within the next 3 weeks, but the first homes are going to be delivered within the next month or so. So we're going to have ability to have occupancy fairly quickly, very different than any affordable housing deal that we've done. So it makes sense just to, again, ramp up the leasing now so it can be ready to house those families, basically.
I want to make it very clear, the first residents should be the former residents, otherwise you're going to have problems with the current residents.
Right.
It's that simple, and the council member.
Right.
Thank
Understood.
you.
Understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
Enough said. We'll move on. Thank you. Thank you for that report. Thank you for that information.
You're welcome.
See no more questions for the committee. Recommendation of the committee is to adopt the CAO report. Okay. Next item is
Item number 7.
7. Okay.
Item number 7, Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority report relative to the numbers of chronically homeless individuals who have been transitioned over the last several years through transitional housing. This is also pursuant to the adoption of the mayor's 2012 budget on May 18th, 2011.
Okay. Okay, is anybody here from LA Homeless Services Authority?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Mike Arnold,
Good morning.
Executive Director for the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority. I've provided you a written report back, and I will just quickly go over the data relative to the inquiry. And specifically, the inquiry was relative to the numbers of chronically homeless individuals who have been transitioned over the past several years through transitional housing. We were able to pull information from our homeless management information system, which is a web-based continuum-wide application that allows us to track who are homeless in our continuum, what programs are able to provide, and the outcomes of these programs and individuals relative to placement in permanent stable housing. Over the course of the last 3 years, over 50 agencies and 103 transitional housing programs are included in this data set. Between 2009 and 2012, approximately 13.5% of people entering transitional housing programs meet the HUD definition of chronically homeless upon program entry. That translates to 1,213 of which we were able to track out of a total of 9,010 people who were exited from transitional programs during this period that are included in our data set. One point of clarification I want to make sure this committee understands is that once a chronically homeless individual enters a transitional housing program, they lose their chronic status. So we're able to provide this information, tracking them through, but technically once they exit the transitional program, they are no longer deemed chronically homeless unless they re-meet that criteria, which is a year or more of extended homelessness or 4 episodes of homelessness in the past 3 years and a disabling condition. So of those 1,213 folks who were deemed chronically homeless upon program entry, 505 or 41.6% of those who exited were successfully housed. Interestingly enough, only 147 of those, 12.1%, went to permanent supportive housing, typically what we deem as the most optimal solution for those who are deemed chronically homeless. The success rate of chronically homeless versus non-chronically homeless who enter the program is slightly lower. We had 41.6 of those who are chronically homeless who succeed in housing upon program exit versus 47.6% of non-chronic individuals who enter transitional programs who achieve housing stability upon exit. That means that about 58.4% of the chronically homeless who enter these programs exit the programs still being homeless. Just a couple of points that this information has brought up that I think is really relevant. One is that the lack of bridge housing has resulted in our transitional housing programs being utilized to house chronically homeless men and women. This unfortunately reduces the capacity of these transitional programs for folks who are better suited for such interventions and reduces the effectiveness of programs as chronic homeless have a higher failure rate. It is interesting that an unusually large number of individuals who do not meet the chronic homeless criteria are being placed in permanent supportive housing. This may be a targeting issue or it may be a data quality issue, but at any rate it calls into question really tracking, are we using our permanent supportive housing resources for those for which it is intended. And again, I mentioned that only 147 of those 505 successful housing outcomes of folks who were deemed chronically homeless upon program entry required permanent supportive housing as a appropriate discharge location, which I think we want to follow that, really track recidivism, because that's a population that typically, without ongoing case services, tends to recidivate and end up back on the streets. The other thing I want to point out is that the number one barrier for improved performance within our transitional programs is the lack of affordable housing options, followed closely by a lack of job opportunities, and anything that this committee can do that can support addition of housing stock for affordable housing and job opportunities would help these programs be more successful. Any questions?
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate your report, and it's good to see the stats and the numbers. We certainly have increased the capacity some for permanent placement, but it's dwarfed by the number of people who actually need it. And one of the unfortunate realities of placing chronically homeless is without wraparound services, it truly isn't a placement that's going to stick. And that's what makes it difficult for us to move from 100 and something of housing stock to thousands. It's because it's a lot more expensive, there's a lot more involved, and there's more levels of government that need to contribute, and also when it comes to the not-for-profit community, the support community, they have to be involved as well. So unfortunately, it is complicated, and it's not easy to do it right. And I would hate for us to engage in thinking that we're providing proper permanent housing for the chronically homeless, and in reality, just seeing them fall off in the back end. So, Richard, you got any questions? No? Okay. All right. Seeing no more questions from the committee, thank you. We'll go to public comment. Anybody here for public comment on item number 7? Public comment is open on item number 7. Okay, it's now closed. Seeing no one come forward. So with that, we'll receive and file the adopted budget recommendation. Okay. We'll go to item number 8.
Item number 8, LHD to report relative to pursuing liens against delinquent properties and the current efforts made by LHD to collect fines and penalties, including information about the practices of other cities. And this is pursuant to the adoption of the FY 2012-13 budget on May 21st, 2012.
Okay. Do you have any questions on this?
Yes.
I don't see.
There's a report.
Where is it? Which one is it? 498.
Housing Department's report.
Did it? They sent it in earlier? Do we have LA Housing Department come forward?
Good morning. Roya Babazadeh, Housing Department.
Good morning. Did you provide us with a written report?
We do have a report on assessment and a proposal that we have. It's in the transmittal submitted to you. And we also have verbal report on additional work that we have done in this regard.
Okay. Richard, do you mind if we go ahead and wait for the report to come to us in writing, et cetera? One of the concerns that I personally have is I don't mind giving our departments the authority to put liens or what have you, but at the same time, that is a big jump. That is a big responsibility. And with all due respect, we have had tremendous complaints about, sometimes we have, it truly is a minor issue at the end of the day, but we're treating it like it's a slumlord issue. And for us to still have that many complaints and then allow a department to put liens really, unfortunately, we could have some victims here where people have actually been swept into a process. We find out many, many months later that they really didn't have to be put through that process. They really didn't have to suffer having a lien, which actually thwarts their ability sometimes to even take care of their property, because if you have a lien, you can't take equity out of your property and say somebody needs to fix a roof or fix the entire plumbing or what have you. We put somebody in a catch-22 when in fact they are trying to be cooperative, but then again, we've created a hurdle or an obstacle that they can't overcome, and we have a catch-22 situation where the tenants suffer as well. So what I'd like to see is the report in writing, and then that way we can have a thorough conversation fully on the record. Any other questions, Richard? Okay.
Pardon me, Council.
Clarification?
Yes.
Pardon me, Council Member, City Clerk's Office. The City Clerk's Office did receive a report from Housing Department. It's a report that was transmitted to both Budget and Finance and Audits Committees regarding this matter. It's being processed, and unfortunately, a copy was not distributed to the committee. We can provide that.
Okay, all right. So when the committee receives that, then we'll reschedule this item. Okay? And if there's anything you'd like to add based on my comments, please do so and fortify your documentation in writing so that we can have, again, we can have a full discussion.
Sure.
Yes, okay.
The concerns that you raised, I believe it's responded through the report, and I'll be happy to answer questions at the time that you have.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so with that, we'll hold this item in committee until we, at a future date, we agendize it. Thank you. That completes all the items on today's agenda. For the record, did we open up
Excuse
public
me,
comment on item one? Yes.
I noted that the report, even though we don't have it, the report does not provide information on practices of other cities. Would you be able to provide that information along with the report? Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so please make sure that if there's information available with other practices of other cities, if you can bring that relevant information to the report, again, in writing, and then we'll agendize the item. Okay? Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that, Richard. Okay, for the record, because I brought up item number one twice, did I open up public comment on item number one?
Yes, you did.
First time? Yes, I did, right? Okay. Okay, so we satisfied opening up public comment on all the items that were on the agenda today. Okay? So with that, is there anybody here for general public comment? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, there are no public comments on general public comment forwarded to the committee. This committee is now adjourned. Thank you.